Okay, glad you clicked over to watch this because the lesson that you just learned in the previous video, the value that other people place on you is the number one thing holding you back from the life that you know you deserve. So remember, what I want you to take from the previous video is a few things, right? First off, a woman must believe you're socially above her. When you present yourself as being socially subservient or less important than her or below her, you take on the role of a fan in your social scene, in your social world, and you give her the role of celebrity. And the thing is, celebrities never want to date their fans, right? The first step in moving from a low value guy to a high value guy within your social scene, to a high status celebrity role within that scene, is understanding some core differences, right? Understanding the core attitudes, behaviors, the core traits that make up this socially powerful, high value person versus a low value person within a social scene. So let's make a list, right? Let's make a chart. And I want you to make this chart on your paper, right? Have a piece of paper and let's make a chart, all right? So let's talk about high value and let's talk about low value, right? So when we talk about a low value guy, let's talk about some of the characteristics that may pop into your head when we think of this low value guy. And I want you to pay attention because what you're about to discover can mark the end and the struggle and the frustration that you might have felt in the past, or you might be feeling right now in terms of your social life. Also, ready to dive in. Now, as I fill out this chart, I want you to be really honest about where you fall on this chart. Some of the things you're gonna hear, right, and I'll warn you, it might make you cringe a little bit, right? It might make you realize some things that you've been doing wrong, and maybe some things you don't like about yourself. But I also bet you're gonna see that there are some high value traits that you already have that you can even amplify them, right? And make other people notice them even more and increase your value. So let's get started. So low value guys, the first thing they are is they're try hard, right? So write that down, try hard. See, low value guys, when you watch them, right? They always seem to be trying very hard. And a lot of it is because their mentality is, like, because I'm low value, and they all kind of know that they're low value. They all kind of know where they stand on the social totem pole. They think, I have to do a lot, right? It all goes back to the mentality of what you do. They focus everything on what to do, what they do. Because of that, they appear very try hard. Now, high value guys make it seem effortless. If you ever seen a guy and you just say that he has charisma, right? The reason that we use that word charisma is because they seem to make it very natural, right? They never seem to be trying really hard. The girls seem to come to them without them really having to work for it. And a lot of times you don't really understand why, right? You don't know why. You're kind of like, what did he do, right? How did he get her? He made it look effortless. Okay, so second, high value people tend to have presence and low value people tend to be plain. So let's write the word plain down under low value and presence down under high value, right? A way that I like to think about it is if you go to a parking lot and you look around the parking lot, you'll see immediately, what'll catch your eyes will be like the BMWs, the Mercedeses, the Porsches, the Teslas, right? And the rest of the parking lot is filled with the Hondas and the Toyotas and the Fords and, the Chryslers and the other million type of cars. And there's nothing wrong with those cars, right? They're reliable, they're safe, they're fine, but they don't have the presence of the other cars, right? High value people in a group, in a room, something about them immediately catches your attention. The same way a BMW or a Porsche catches your attention in a parking lot. All right, so next, high value people tend to be demanding and low value people tend to take a back seat, right? So write back seat. What I mean by that is high value people tend to want what's best. They tend to treat themselves very well. They tend to demand respect from people. Low value people, they tend to take a back seat, right? And using the back seat as even an example, when you're getting in a car with a group of people, the low value guy, he tends to let the high value guy take shotgun, right? He lets him take the front seat and he doesn't even fight for it. He kind of knows that that's his role. They have that mentality of, I'm going to give the other person more respect. I'm going to give the other person, I'm not going to take it, right? I'm going to let them have it. High value guy, he takes it. Next is an edge and soft, right? So low value guys tend to be soft. High value guys tend to have an edge to them. High value guys tend to have that edge, right? That edge comes from being that sort of R-rated character, right? You never really know where they're coming from, right? There's that scene in the movie Swingers where he talks about, you want to be that R-rated character, not the character in the PG movie, right? A low value guy, he's the character in the PG movie, right? He's safe, he's nice, he's likable, he's predictable, but he doesn't have the claws. He doesn't have that killer instinct that the high value guy has, all right? And a lot of this because he's demanding, right? The high value guy's demanding, he's ambitious, he wants more. Where the low value guy, he is just a little bit soft. He's willing to settle. He doesn't really go after what he wants. He doesn't have that killer instinct. All right, next, high value guys tend to be talked about. And low value guys tend to be boring. So write boring and talked about. What I mean by this is the high value guy, he's got so much going on in his life. He's got the presence, right? He demands a lot. He's got that edge. So people are always kind of talking about him. Because they're talking about him, remember, we live in a celebrity-obsessed culture. The more he's talked about, the more people are sitting around going, what's he up to? What's he doing? And they're telling stories about him, right? His value is going up in their eyes. It's just the way it is, right? On the other hand, the low value guy, because he lives in a very boring life, he doesn't have the ambition, he doesn't have the edge, he doesn't have the presence, he doesn't have the drive. Because of that, he's really not talked about all that much, right? And even though he's there, and even though they find him, they might find him attractive, they might think he's a good-looking guy, right? The girls might acknowledge, he's cute, or, he's good-looking, but because he's not talked about, he doesn't have the same value, that same level of social power as that high-value guy. Next, the high-value guy tends to be intriguing, and the low-value guy tends to be predictable, right? So we're going to write predictable and intriguing. High-value guys, because they have so much going on in their lives, because they have this persona of power, women always want to know more about them, right? They're always looking for the next reel, right? The movie, it's like an onion, for instance, right? They're always peeling away layers, right? And they're getting to know more about him. The low-value guy, though, because he's focused on doing, and he's doing all the same things as all the other low-value guys, he's very predictable. She feels like after a date or after a conversation with this guy, she feels like it's the same guy she went out with 10 times already. He doesn't stand out. He doesn't have anything to offer her. So she doesn't have that desire to get to know him more. All right. Next, high value guys embrace his character, and low value guy is uncomfortable with his character, right? So we write uncomfortable and just write embrace character. It'll make sense in a second. What I mean by that is the high value guy, he takes on a character of being high status, right? Or of being high value. He walks around and he plays that role. It's almost like he's playing the role of the cool guy, of the powerful guy. He embraces it and he owns it. And because he embraces it and because he owns it, he looks very comfortable in that role. Whereas the low value guy, he always seems a little awkward, a little uncomfortable, a little out of place. Even when he's trying to deliver like a flirty line, or he's trying to say something that demands respect, he just seems a little bit off. He never quite embraces his character. And because of that, women pick up on this, and he's not congruent, right? Whereas the high value guy comes across as very congruent. The low value guy looks a little incongruent, a little uncomfortable, and a little phony even when he's trying to be cool. Finally, the high value guy is a very sexual persona, and the low value guy almost appears asexual, right? So we got asexual and sexual. The interesting thing here is that the high value guy doesn't really do anything differently, right? He's not talking about sex more. He's not dressing that much sexier, although he will dress sexier than this guy, but it's not like he's going out of his way to do it. It's got nothing to do with anything that he's doing. It has to do with who he is. Because he's got the edge, because he's more demanding and he's more focused and he's got that ambition, and because he's talked about by people, because he's intriguing, because he's comfortable in his character, because he never seems to be trying too hard, because of all these things, he gives off a sexual vibe. All these things lead to be a high value person. So where do we go from here, right? Where do we go from here? We got our list. Now pay attention, because here's the most important part. Now that you're aware of the specific traits, right, that tell a woman how much value she should place on you, the good news is that you can eliminate these low value traits and you can amplify, add, and even get more of these high value traits once you learn the secret of developing status, power, and charisma.